It's the Building Code. I'm Zach Witovich.
And I'm Charley Burtwhistle.
Welcome, everybody. Today we have Catie Brown of our data and research team. She's going to come on and tell us a little bit about what that entire department does. Charley, you're technically part of the data and research team.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on the data science side of things, and then we have the data research side of things on the other side of the house. So super excited to hopefully kind of nerd out with Catie a little bit.
Oh, no.
A fellow CB, Charley Burtwhistle, Catie Brown. We're kind of linked in that aspect as well too.
What's Zach going to do on this podcast
Hey,
today?
this is a good switch up because normally, you're very client facing, talking about your travels as a rep and your time on the CS floor, and I am constantly in the background in the data science, kind of realm. So my chance to connect with someone I work with.
Going to flex a little bit?
We're gonna try, yeah. It'll be good. We're also we're filming this one for the first time ever. So if we're not, for those
Look at the camera.
For those people listening on the, wherever you listen to podcasts, feel free to check us out on YouTube as well too.
Oh, it's happening. We're now YouTube stars.
I think now that I said that, we have to do it.
I think last episode said that was like my primary goal. No, this was actually my primary goal.
Become a YouTube star.
Yeah.
Well, here we are. Luckily, we have Catie Brown here to help us get there. We do have a few timely topics linked for you guys in the show notes. Super interesting stuff. The first article really just kind of talks about the labor shortage, and this one kind of connects with me pretty closely. So my dad actually teaches building construction at O'Neill High School, and they do actually listen to some of these episodes. It's summer right now, but if they listen to this episode, shout out O'Neill High School.
We're getting it in the curriculum.
Absolutely. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. But he, some of the builders around that area just absolutely love his class because it's so hard to find skilled labor. So, being able to teach them, throughout high school, have them, enter the workforce with some skills is, a kind of a big time game changer for the industry, at least in O'Neill, Nebraska. But we do have that, again, from the construction dive, talks about just the shortage and the labor shortage in the construction industry. And then the second article is a little nerdy. I promise I didn't pick it, but it was all about all the benefits of 5G and how that rolling out is going to benefit the construction industry as well too.
Well, that's something we hear a lot from our clients as far as connectivity to Buildertrend. Obviously, right now, it has to be connected to internet. And a lot of people are still using on, standard 3G,
right,
4G networks. So the speed on the 5G is tremendous. This is an area I'm just personally interested in. If you're standing next to a 5G tower, you're going to get at-home like internet speeds, which makes all aspects of communication, running a business, and operationally should make you more efficient. So it is, I think, really relevant and pretty incredible. That's an area I'd like to explore more, and kind of like with construction of like, you have software, but like what are the other pieces that need to be part of that puzzle to make those things get
all
done?
Work? Absolutely. And even like with the existing technology that's out there, obviously will be improved by 5G, but also the opportunity for technological advances. So you think about like having, real life sensors out at the job site. Right now, obviously those are costly, and like obviously if you're not getting good speed, they're not really a whole lot of benefit to them. But the decreased cost of like, sensors and VR headsets, being able to see, walk through virtual tours of the house, everything like that, that currently is being kind of held back by the, 3 or 4Gs out there, will just kind of open up a whole new wave of technology.
Absolutely incredible stuff. We're always looking for more topics and things to kind of explore here on the Building Code. So stick with us for a diversity of things
all over the place.
Continue to grow and really explore kind of what's happening out there in the construction industry. Let's get Catie on here so we can get started talking about the data and research. And Catie,
absolutely,
welcome to the Building Code.
Up,
there she is. Great to see you. We're so happy that you could be here today.
In person.
In person always makes a difference. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How long have you been at Buildertrend?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me here on the podcast. And I've been at Buildertrend for about 1.5 years, and 7 months of that was as an intern, and now I'm full-time.
What were you doing before you came to Buildertrend?
My background is in psychology. So prior to Buildertrend, I was getting my master's in that, and I researched specifically how people make decisions in moments of uncertainty, which I feel like applies to construction sometimes. But yeah.
How am I going to get this house built?
Yeah. It was super interesting too. I remember, Catie, you and I had talked about this before, where you're kind of deciding, do I want to go academia? Do I want to go into industry? And some of the pros and cons of, going on to get your PhD versus, going straight into the workforce. How do you feel that decision has played out over the past, year and a half?
I am so happy.
Yeah.
I really love what I do. I think I am meant to be in an applied environment where the work that I do has impact directly on real life people in their day-to-day. So it's really meaningful work.
For sure. And let's, dive into that. Obviously, in the intro, we gave everyone a little bit of heads up about what you did. But tell us more specifically, kind of high-level overview, what is data and research? What are some of your day-to-day tasks, and what does being a researcher here at Buildertrend kind of entail?
Yeah, so I'm one of about 7 people on the research team, and so that's under the data and research umbrella. And I guess a day-to-day might be having a Zoom call with builders, asking them questions, maybe having them look over a survey, or maybe designing a survey, like deciding what questions we're going to ask. We're getting one of those ready to send out pretty soon. Or just meeting with other members of the research team and kind of collaborating, talking about what we've learned lately, things like that.
Absolutely. I always get so jealous hearing you guys talk about talking to customers. I feel like probably a lot of our listeners have had some contact with Zach or Catie before, and then I'm just the data scientist over in the corner that hidden from the world.
Yeah, they're like, are you even the one who makes the program?
Yeah,
No, it's not. I don't even do that. I was like, what do you do here?
Does he even go here?
Yeah. What is this guy doing here?
I'm not that type of nerd.
Well, I like that you bring up the customer. They love to talk to us, frankly. I mean, we hear from our customers all the time in the support line when we're training people, and then we have other avenues, product feedback. So I think that's where we kind of want to go with it. I mean, we try to Buildertrend's a user-centric company. We try to base our decisions off what our customers are telling us. When you are working with a customer, can you explain what that means for our listeners? Why do we have a research team? What are we trying to learn from them?
Yeah, so our job is to keep the focus on the people who are actually using the program. And so as product improvements are made, we are consistently advocating for our users, and keeping in mind who's gonna be using this software at the end of the day. It's not, I don't know, a gymnastics team. You could.
That would be quite a 180.
Could be.
Yeah, you could.
Hey, we've got a new product for you. It's to help USA Gymnastics. Mm-hmm. Go USA.
Props to the sales rep to sign up
Really?
the gymnastics team.
Yeah, but it's you could design a product for any human, but we're designing it for construction professionals. And these are the concerns, the challenges, the motivations of our users.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to say, so when you're reaching out to someone to collect this information, what kind of qualifies them? How do you find people to research? What would make someone pop up on your list of hey, I'm going to call out and listen to this person's conversation?
Yeah. Well, usually we have some research question that is specific to some area of the program or a certain process. So we wouldn't want to ask an estimator about the sales process unless they happen to do that as well. So we are looking for specific roles sometimes. Definitely looking for people who are consistently using the program, involved in the company. Usually before we call someone, we'll go look up the company website, see what their involvement, or I guess what their specific jobs are, and just get to know more about the company. So we really we reach out to a broad array of our customers.
Yeah. Zach, are you feeling a little nervous about our interview skills, hearing how much she interviews customers?
We're going to be getting pointers for sure.
I hope so.
We get a memo. Hey,
so you know,
you need to work on this.
Absolutely.
Specifically. Catie, when you're meeting with your customer, how do you guys identify what projects you want to focus on? Is it customer driven, or is it also, or do you guys have your own ideas? What's that process look like? How does the sausage get made?
So we have 2 different types of research that we do. One would be our foundational knowledge about our users, and then the other would be product-specific research. So product-specific research, we might be working with someone who is developing the product, designing it, and they have questions that they need answered. And so we'll work with them to come up with questions to ask and find customers to ask those questions to. And with our foundational research, that's sort of driven by the business needs at the moment, but also kind of by our own curiosity, which is really fun. So I know one person on our research team was doing some interviews and was like, we really need to know more about subcontractors. So not our customers who are subcontractors, but people that are subcontractors in the system, because they're also our users, even though they're not our customers per se. So that's also kind of what goes into being user-centric, is you're thinking about everyone who's going to use the system. So it's, I don't know, I think it's really fun to sort of follow the trail when you get a question.
Yeah. And something I've always been super curious about is like, after you have these interviews, specifically for like the project-centric one that you were talking about, how like, do you guys keep in touch with the people that you interview? Is like, hey, remember that idea you gave us a year ago? Like, here it is now. Like, we had Sean McKenna on the pod a few episodes ago, and he talked about user voice and like how people could submit ideas. Is it kind of similar for you guys, or is it normally once you do the interview, that's kind of the end of it?
It depends. So actually Bill Gray, who is also was on the podcast, he is someone that I had talked to about a year ago. And I know that he was talking about building for earthquakes. And so when someone from inside Buildertrend wanted to sort of do a case study on natural disasters or building for that, I thought of him. And so we kind of stay in contact that way. If someone has specific feedback that they bring up during an interview, or if we reached out to them from user voice, we will follow up with them when changes are made. Because usually people who reach out once, or who respond when we reach out, like they want to be involved, they want to talk to us, and those are the best people to talk to.
How do we pick the people that we want to be talking to in these research? Is there certain parameters? You work with Charley in data science to pull kind of profiling. What's that process look like? I mean, if we had a customer listening to this today and they're like, I want to talk to the research team, can they just get in line, or what's that process?
We do try to keep it a bit random.
Maybe I just accidentally opened the floodgates.
Yeah, no, my home,
Anybody that has any idea ever, call Catie Brown at
my home phone number. No. But actually, yeah, Charley's team developed this nice dashboard where we can just point and click, like what kind of role do we want, where in the world they're coming from, like all this kind of stuff, and it just spits out a list. And then we literally pick a random subset of that list, because even though we do follow up with people, we want the information to be evergreen. So we're continually trying to find new people that we haven't talked to before. And you also don't want to get like a biased sample. So if we only talk to people that had no problems with Buildertrend, we would
That's
never.
who we want. Yeah. Those are our fave.
We'd never get better though. So
right.
We definitely want, like I said, that wide array of perspectives.
And I like that, we would never get better thing. And one of the questions we wanted to ask is like, how does the work you do help Buildertrend users? And I think that, I'm guilty of this. Like, I get an email that says, hey, we'd love 5 minutes to take a survey. I'm like, no. So maybe like this is your chance.
No.
Frankly, I actually.
What's in it for me?
I reply to the email, a 10-minute response
it
about
says
why
no
I'm not
reply
do
in
it.
the header. Charley's over here just shaking his fist. Like,
to our listeners that may have gotten one of those emails before, maybe talk through the benefits of like, if you do talk to us, like this is how it's going to help you.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest thing is product improvements. When we are testing out a new feature, that might be one reason why we call one of our customers, is we just get them in the test environment and see how they interact with it. Do things make sense? So you could very well see something that you test out become part of Buildertrend in your day-to-day. Another thing would be, so part of that foundational knowledge is like, so who who is a remodeler? And
Let's get deep here. Yeah.
very philosophical, but
Not
think-
in the right state of mind for this.
but like when you get to the essence of kind of these are the key aspects of the remodelers' challenges and things, we're not just hoarding that knowledge. We
Right.
pass it on to our customer support team. So maybe, remodelers who are new customers, they're going to sign up, and it's like we know in general, of course, we're going to ask about the specifics of their business, but we know in general kind of how their business works. We have this knowledge of this, foundational knowledge already at hand. And also it's helpful. So we might learn that, this kind of builder actually really benefits from some part of the program. So if we make changes to that part of the program, we're going to be like, hey, marketing team, when this gets released, you need to let these people know. So it's really kind of bringing a lot of different groups in Buildertrend together.
It all starts asking the right questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I keep saying that we need merch for the podcast here, and I feel like a shirt that says "Who is a remodeler" would be a fantastic one.
I mean, it's called the building code, so we definitely need to keep it in theme. Our producers are gonna absolutely be like, no marketing suggestions. Stop trying to go to Power 30.
Yeah.
All these grand ideas over here on the pod.
Not going to happen. We did want to update our listeners that we will not be attending Power 30, our free trip to Vail.
If you remember from talking to Ryan from CVOSA, we had been working that angle. Back on topic, Catie, what's the timeline of your research projects? Like, how long do these take typically, and the quantity of builders that you're talking to when you're going through your process?
Yeah, we always think it won't take as long as it does.
That is the ultimate truth. Our clients probably are like, exactly. Like, that's why we can't give you a deadline.
Yeah, we don't use schedules on our team. It would just be embarrassing. No, I guess we usually, a typical project might take a month to a few months. So there's always like the planning stage, because what you want to start out with is using all the information that you have. So we're going to work with the data team and kind of see what do we know from a numbers side of things. We're going to look at past interviews to see maybe our questions are already answered. And then from there, we're going to plan out the research activities, because you don't want to just like jump on a call and be like, oh yeah, so
we had some questions for you.
who are you? Yeah. And then kind of analyzing things. So usually it's like we'll start with interviews, and then we're like, you know what, we need to know this at scale. So we'll do a survey maybe, and just analyzing that. You can, look at the numbers all day, but then a big part is translating that into like business insights that we can use. And really, when I say business insights, it's really more about like customer, almost like raising the customer voice throughout Buildertrend. It's not so much like about benefiting us as it is benefiting our users.
Yeah, and something you touched on there is just benefiting the other employees at Buildertrend. So whether that be, CS reps downstairs, like, hey, this is what you should be talking to, or how certain people interact. Obviously on our team, on the data side, like a lot of the research that comes out of your guys' projects is like, okay, let's see if we can find this in the data now and actually plot these trends and like have projections around it. And now we understand why we're doing it too. It's not just all ones and zeros anymore.
Yeah, definitely the why behind the what is like
Right.
probably our T-shirt slogan.
Nice. There we go.
Everybody's getting T-shirts.
Yeah, print 'em.
Every department's going to have a slogan.
Oh, is that? I think that's our CEO. He's nodding over there. Yeah.
no.
Yeah. You guys can't see him on camera, but
Yeah.
Dan Houghton is right there.
Well, what I'm curious now is, what have you learned? What are some things that you've discovered recently that we can kind of see, like, what's the culminating results of your work?
Yeah. One project that I thought was really cool was one that we did at the start of our relationship with the Home Depot's Pro Extra program. And we were wanting to know, so how do builders purchase materials? What are some general trends? And we were asking people, what is most important when it comes to purchasing materials? Is it availability? Is it quality, customer service? And how does that differ if you're ordering like lumber and building materials or finishes or kind of ad hoc purchases? And what we found is that for lumber and building materials and finishes, the two most important things are quality and availability. So you need to have it, and it needs to be good. And the least important for those materials is proximity to job site. So it's kind of like you can get it delivered eventually.
Interesting.
But, there's a twist. When it comes to those one-off, last-minute ad hoc purchases, proximity to job site shoots up to the second most important, I guess, parameter in ordering, along with availability. So it's like you go from it, we'll get it to the job site. It needs to be quality and it needs to be available to, we just have to get it to the job site ASAP. So when it comes to ad hoc purchases, you're just going to go to the closest store, which it was just like a very distinct kind of 180 for those different types of building materials.
Yeah, I wonder what that journey's like. We're good. Oh God, we forgot. We got to go get it now.
Yeah, like sheetrock ASAP, go.
Well, something happened. Super interesting. Mm-hmm. And that was research that was kind of on our side with the Home Depot partnership, or is that something we were looking into before that? I mean, it was something
that we were looking into as that partnership began to sort of understand how our builders approach purchasing, because that's kind of one of the benefits of the partnership with Home Depot Pro Extra.
Yeah. What else? What are some other things that maybe you've worked on, just to kind of give a little bit more context of what type of impact you guys are having?
Mm-hmm. So something more product related. I was working closely with a team that was focused on communication in Buildertrend. And part of that, we had a recurring survey where we'd ask a few people every month to indicate what they thought about how Buildertrend was useful for communication between office and field. And then we wanted to see, okay, so the people who say Buildertrend is good for communication, what parts of the program are they really using a lot of? We're thinking, okay, probably messages, probably comments, maybe to-dos, but the two parts of the program that stood out as people who say we're good for communication, they're actually using bid packages and selections that have vendors and installers on them. So we interpreted that as it's not so much sending out a communication, but already having that information in place. So people already know what they need to know, and you don't need to call the installer and make sure that he's going to be there tomorrow. It's like he already knows. He's on the selection, and that's on the schedule, and it's all tied together.
Does that kind of vibe with what you've heard down in the CS room, Zach? Like, I probably would have guessed you had to do schedule something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I think about just the bidding process, it needs to be, what am I actually asking for and how much is that going to cost? And it's not so much like the back and forth on the bid that is the communication, it's the bid itself.
Right.
They're looking for an answer and we're delivering it through the system, And so we always have that old cliche on the sale or on the CS floor. Buildertrend is a communication tool, and it can be the obvious ones, but there's a lot of ways. A purchase order is another way. It's like, okay, after bidding, now I'm sending you the official final contract. That's a form of communication to be like, this is what I'm going to pay you.
Right.
And so there's these subtle nuances of how these interactions happen, but within the actual features that we offer. And it happens in it doesn't surprise me in selections either.
And it kind of goes back to your original point too of like, researching subcontractors, because they are our users, right? Like obviously the communication goes two ways with subs and vendors and installers and things like that. They may not be the, GC using Buildertrend, but they're still involved in the process. So understanding that workflow and is streamlined and easy for them obviously is super critical to the products as well too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess with that sub-research, just a quick shout out to Catherine Fritzlin. She's another user researcher on our team who's working on that. And
heck yeah. Shout out Catherine.
Yeah, she's our newest member of the research team.
For now, we have another person starting
rapid.
tomorrow.
Man,
Yep.
Everything's always changing, always adding more people. And one thing that's really funny on the subs, I've actually talked to clients who their subs are better Buildertrend users collectively. Like they're like, I need my GC to get better at Buildertrend because it helps me so much. So it's interesting, like from a collaboration standpoint, how like the auxiliary people can actually force the main contractor to step it up, man.
You have to
update your schedule.
I've heard, someone on my team, Kayla, shout out Kayla Schmidt.
We're just going. We're running,
free shout outs,
running
left
Yeah.
and right. She just bought a house, and their builder was a Buildertrend user. And so obviously she works at Buildertrend. She knew all the capabilities of it. She's like, he'd email her a list of selections and choices. And she was like, is there any way you could just like update this in Buildertrend? I could just like do it in there. He's like, oh no, we actually don't use that. And she was like, well, maybe I need to like go to the CS rep and have a quick call here with this builder.
Let's get this set up.
That's super funny.
Well, Catie, we really appreciate your time. We're about out of it, but thank you so much for coming in and talking about the research team. This was really enlightening, and we're excited to announce you're going to be back with reoccurring segments
Yeah.
to kind of keep us informed so that Charley and I, stay on task, stay on topic, and we continue to kind of pull what we're learning about our customers back into the podcast. We're really excited to continually meet with you and talk about these topics.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's been great.
Well, Catie, again, thanks again. Zach, welcome to my world of data and research. What were your thoughts?
Well, I actually do find this stuff pretty interesting. What is a remodeler? Why do they work this way? So like getting into the psychology, it was really interesting that was her background. It makes a lot of sense. I almost asked her like, have you been on any podcasts when you were getting your master's or whatever? So, I think we're doing all right.
Right. It is. The psychology background is really interesting. There's actually a few of the researchers on that team that came from, that same sort of background, just trying to figure out, what makes people click and connecting the dots, which for me, as a very quantitative analyst, is perfect, because what good is like spotting some trend or being able to forecast some events if you don't know why it's happening or what are you going to do about it? So the collaboration between the data science and the data research team is really,
Because
really
you guys
impactful.
are technically the same department.
Correct. Yep. We work side by side.
Yeah, so,
daily stand-up, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. When I started Buildertrend, we were just getting the data team set up, and then it grew to a research team, right? Or did the research team come first and then it led to
No,
data?
so the research team has really been developed in like a little over a year and a half
Yeah.
or so. So I was the first kind of data analyst at Buildertrend 3 years ago. We grew the team to probably 4 or 5 about a year ago, and then we brought on Jordan Becker, who heads up that department. They're 7 or 8 people now. We're 8 people now. So yeah, it's been a really fun ride, and the research side of things has really just taken us to the next level.
Yeah, like it just paints such a big, clear picture for me of the whole process of how do we actually create the best product, the best experience, and get the best overall picture of who our customers are. In the past, our old process was like you'd call in, you'd talk to a rep, that may or may not get to the right person, but now we have this systemized. We have a research team who's coming up with questions, really trying to dive into the psychology of our customers and what they're looking for. I'm sure they do a lot of work with our customers, even just on that at the individual level, like here's how the program should work. Also, just what is my industry doing? What
Right.
are we missing? What is a gap that we're not even thinking of yet from the people that are doing it? That gets to the product team.
Right.
The product team builds it. You guys are doing the reporting about the impact of that product,
Right.
and the journey of our customers who are using our product, and then
It's just a big
And then
circle.
sales obviously continues to sell it, and that just kind of feeds the funnel.
Yeah, and I feel like we've had a few guests on here that have talked about just like how much they enjoy the fact that Buildertrend listens to them, and like we're not just like, well, I'm saying we, like our product team isn't just like making this up because they think it's impactful. Like we build the product that we build because we hear it from the best builders in the nation and around the world. So I think that's the really cool part about Buildertrend is like, and why it's so successful is because we're actually listening. Well, people like Catie are actually listening to the customers, hearing what they want and how it should be done. And then we actually implement those findings. So yeah, Buildertrend would collapse without Catie Brown.
Specifically,
Specifically her.
she's gonna love hearing that.
Absolutely. Print the T-shirt. Buildertrend would collapse without Catie Brown.
Yeah. Well, and like we said, we're gonna bring her back. She's gonna be a recurring guest. I'm super
Yep.
excited to kind of have a rotating group of people that are gonna help. We've got a great team here at Buildertrend. Hopefully, these episodes give you some insight to how we do things. Just like your company, we're still, growing, doing things differently, trying new things. But I think we get it right most of the time, and we're really moving in a great direction. So it's awesome to have people like Catie to kind of learn from.
Absolutely. I think that about does it for this episode.
Yeah, catch us next time on The Building Code. I'm Zach Witovich.
I'm Charlie Burtwhistle.
We'll see ya.